go hiantach Aoife Ní Bhriain an sin. Fáilte go léir go dtí an ceolchorm seo, an ceolchorm speisialta, drawing from the well, where some of our most distinguished musical artists look to material in the wonderful traditional music archive of ITMA as a source for new work. And they will be performing that new work this evening. So you're here at a very unique occasion, and we're all delighted to be part of this evening. You know, on Tober Gley, on Tober Down, this rich, deep well which we're privileged to reach into to make new music, song, dance, and flints of poetry to help carry us all. Somebody who enriched that well immeasurably is the late and great and greatly missed Mick Maloney, who did so much extraordinary work in terms of the music of Irish America. And he was a generous supporter of so many musicians, singers, dancers, and poets indeed, myself included. And we could never praise Mick enough. He was greatly loved, he's greatly missed, and we honour him this evening. And I want to read a poem dedicated to Mick, which I wrote during a trip to Vietnam in 2013 with Mick and a group of Irish and Irish-American musicians, including Louise and Michelle Mulcahy, wonderful musicians. And I was privileged to witness this exchange of music between Irish musicians and Vietnamese musicians in Ho Chi Minh City and in a few different parts of Vietnam. Mick lived in Southeast Asia for years and loved Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos. He knew it all so well. And thinking of his group, the Green Fields of America, and flying over the greenness of Vietnam and hearing the music, I wrote this poem, The Green Fields of Vietnam. Eleanor Plunkett in Saigon, Carolyn walks with Ho Chi Minh. The flying harp, the piper's call, a fiddle carries Sligo east. And all that we have suffered, known, all laughter, hunger, hope is here. The rebel heart, the burning land are held in string and bow, in voice and hands nimble, strong, pour out music unpicked time. Music pours and gives us piper's tunes, the woman at the river, our own Gra Vietnam, the butterfly at the wake. In Tarman, Hanoi, here, jigs and reel, slow air, remembering the end of time, the end of war. The good dead in the green and blue, in hills, mountains, rivers. Music pours, the future hovers on the threshold of the past. A man in exile dreams his country free. At the mouth of flowers, Michael Collins falls. The poet rides on horseback through the night. We cross from north to south, west to east, borders blurred and notes made new. A blackbird in the Mekong sings the green fields of America and Cook on London Bui. The beautiful goldfinch in a Saigon garden sings nightingale and rose. Time stops. The dancer steps, and poised, we stand upon the edge, strike the note, and soul rise up and dance. Our next three artists in our next three artists in reverse order are Caitlín Nic Gabhann, Conor Connolly, and first of all, Steve Cooney.
Thank you, Vincent. Just get plugged in here now. Thanks to ITMA for Traditional Music Archive for inviting us all. I'm going to play a round of two versions of the great poem by Cathal Bui McGilliganna, the Bonan Bui and Bonan Bui. And the first is from Teelan in southwest Donegal, and the second is from Armagh. And the first I got from Donal MacAward, and the second I got from Portuguese New Orleans. And then I'll play a version of Slieve Naman. Slieve Naman, taken from the Goodman collection, which was published by the Traditional Music Archive. You can access that collection there. And in case that's all too somber, I'll finish with a blasting of a slide. Johnny Mickey Barry's.
Good evening, how are you? My little project for the Drawing in the Well was to kind of do what I probably do every day, is probably just kind of listen to recordings of accordion players and traditional music in general. But yeah, we spent a lovely evening up in the ITMA archive, and myself and great accordion player and archivist Alan Morris Rowe from Swinford in County Mayo, but he's living in Dublin here for years. And we sat down and we just had a conversation about some of the early recordings of accordion music in the 78 RPM era. And we looked at a couple of players, and the first of whom was a great accordion player from Newcastle West in Limerick, who immigrated to New York back in either the 19-teens or 1920s, a man called William McGillicuddy. And I'm going to play a selection now that was recorded in 1934. And it's a selection that's collectively known as Jackson's Polka. And yeah, so I'm going to be playing these on a box, an accordion from that period. One that probably doesn't look too familiar in in today's tradition, I suppose. But this is a accordion from the 1950s, I suppose, towards the end of that 78 RPM era, and these are a bit more powerful than normal accordions. They were kind of made for an era that didn't have, I suppose, sufficient PA in dance halls and stuff. So this is what the typical sort of instrument that William would have recorded on, and it's a Baldoni Bartoli, and it was made in Italy. And before we had, we had first of all the melodeons, who had that had one row of buttons. Then we gradually moved on, and we added a few accidentals on the inside, and then eventually became turned into a two-row box that is common in the tradition now. But I'll give this set a go anyway. Jackson's Polka. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very kind. Get me breath back. So I'm going to continue on this time. I suppose the whole mission of this Drawing from the Well project was to bring tunes, I suppose, from our recorded collections and recorded media, from whether they be older, small but newer, or in written form, and kind of bring them into the modern era. And one of the other players that that myself and Alan Morris Rowe talked about was one of the greatest exponents, along with William McElligott, of that one-row accordion system out in the States at the time, was a man from North Galway, Peter James Conlon, and he came from a very musical family. He had two sisters that also played as well and recorded, who were a small bit younger than him. But he immigrated out to New York as well back in the 19-teens, and had a very distinguished recording career that spanned from the teens to the 1929 with the Wall Street crash. And so these are two tunes that he recorded separately. The first one is called Sheeran's Reel, and the second one is labelled as the Tune Reel. And so I'm kind of have I'm going to play this on kind of more modern two-row system here, and hope it goes okay. So Sheeran's and the Tune Reel. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.
Hello. I was so honoured and happy to be able to put the spotlight on Willie Keane for this Drawing from the Well project. He was such a rare dancer in that he was so musical with his feet, his rhythm and his energy and the way he moved around in a set. He was just such a musical dancer, the battering. He was able to respond to the music. He was so in tune with the music and the musician. He was able to respond to whatever the musician was playing. And in turn, then the musician would respond back to him dancing like a conversation over and back. He was that musical a dancer. And when I was 7 years old, I got to dance with him down at the Willie Clancy Summer School. And sometimes you don't realise how important or inspiring an event in your life will be on the rest of your life until well after the event. And that's definitely one of those moments. I'm still inspired by those times that week that I got to dance with him. Whenever I go to play and I go to dance, I'm thinking of that rhythm and I'm trying to replicate that. So we'll have a set later on, but for now I'm just going to play a couple of reels in honour of Willie Keane.
Was that a treat or was it not? Oh. And I'm telling you, wait till you see her dance. Absolutely wonderful, Caitlín Nic Gabhann. My name's Moya Cannon, and I'm going to read you a few poems. It's ítach an pléisiúr bhí an seo libh nacht. Agus it's more an honour to bhí ag léamh a ggóúidir na ceoltarí na rincarí dochreite seo. I'm going to read a poem called Between the Jigs and the Reels, and it was commissioned by a wonderful woman called Mary McPartland for another evening, a little like this, on a somewhat smaller scale, many years ago. So this is for all the wonderful, wonderful musicians. Conor cited as one of his influences Joe Cooley, and Joe Cooley and his great recording with Tony McMahon, one of the absolute classic recordings of Irish traditional music, said, everybody in the States, he says, everybody likes traditional music, you know. He says, it's the only music that brings people to their senses. And some people would think it was a slight exaggeration, but we know better. Between the jigs and the reels. Between the jig and the reel, what is there? Only one beat escaped from a rib cage. Tunes are migratory and fly from heart to heart, intimating that there's a pattern to life's pulls and draws. Because what matters to us most can seldom be told in words, the heart's moods are better charted in its own language. The rhythm of Cooley's accordion, which could open the heart of a stone, John Doherty's dark reels, and the tune that the sea taught him, the high parts of the road, and the underworlds, which only music and love can brave, to bring us back to our senses and on beyond. I spent a while in Canada in '96 and heard some of the music from Cape Breton, etc., and the literature. And there's a wonderful writer, Alistair MacLeod from Cape Breton, and in one of his stories, he had a song which I'd learned as a child in Donegal, and it had obviously travelled over and back to Scotland and then on to Cape Breton. And I was struck by the fact that it's very often the poorest people who carry the songs. And subsequently, Mairéad Ní Gabhann told me a story about her brother, Micheál, who went up to collect some songs from a blind aunt, thinking he'd get a handful, and came back with over 100. And apparently their grandmother, when she was a girl, when the boys went off to Scotland to work for the summer, for the harvest, they used to ask the girlfriends, what song, what will I bring you back? What present would you like? And their grandmother always said, bring me a song. And then she passed the songs on to her daughter, Nellie, who was blind, who passed them on to the great Scarabray, and they were brought all over the world. So this is Carrying the Songs, and there's an epigraph from the great late Frank Hart. He said, those in power write the history, those who suffer write the songs. It was always those with little else to carry who carried the songs to Babylon, to the Mississippi. Some of these last possessed less than nothing, did not own their own bodies, yet 3 centuries later, deep rhythms from Africa, stowed in their hearts, their bones, carry the world songs. For those who left my own county, girls from Downings and the Rosses, who followed herring boats north to Shetland, gutting the sea's silver as they went, or boys from Ranafast and Hornhead, who took the Derry boat, who slept over a rope in a bothy. Songs were their soul's currency, the pure metal of their hearts, to be exchanged for other gold, other songs which rang out true and bright when flung down upon the deal boards of their days. Gramaigh. I meant to say at the beginning, if you want to give yourself a treat, go to the ITMA website and go to Drawing from the Well. these beautiful, beautiful little films. And Aoife Granville, wonderful flute player whom we're going to hear next, did a beautiful film about the first ladies of the flute. And as you'll hear, she's a first lady of the flute herself. Cormac.
Maya. This isn't daunting at all. But Cormac ITMA and tá sé das an méidsa dína iascint an socan Laoire dhéanamh an obair úntacha tarbunna ITMA. I'm going to start off with a Laoire that I learned. It's a beautiful song, but it was recorded by one of the queens of flute playing, Catherine McAvoy. It's called Bánach Nic Gabhann, and then I'm going to hopefully play 2 slides after that I learned. The first one from the playing of Julie Clifford and the second one from the playing of the lovely Anne McAuliffe from Kerry. I can hear everything back, thinking about every breath now. I'm going to play a set of reels that I suppose are named after two mighty women, Teresa Gardner, who I suppose I discovered a lot more about through the Drawing the Well film, and I had the great privilege of meeting her. We were welcomed into the house, into her home house in Galway, and met her brother Peter, and I'm due to meet Teresa, who was the first kind of woman I suppose we have recorded playing flute in the tradition, and she's only 80 years young, so she's quite young, you know. So the first tune is the first tune that she recorded or that we've heard her play, and the second one is a composition of Josie McDermott's, which was written for Peg McGrath, another mighty female flute player. And after this set, we'll be joined on stage by Conor, Steve, Aoife Ní Bhriain, and the dancers as well. So, Camila Maga. They told me they were coming.
I won't leave you on your own.
Good.
Caitlín?
Yeah.
Go on now.
Fáilte Rómha Ligarash, you're very welcome back again. I know there's some writers in the audience, so this is a song about somebody that lost all his books. His name was Tommaso Suluan, and he was a school teacher in the Iveragha Peninsula, Kerry, and in the early years of the 19th century. And he was moving from Iveragha up to from Derrynan, Daniel O'Connell country, up to the north of the Iveragha Peninsula, and he either walked or got a lift of some sort up himself, but his books were going by sea. But just off Derrynan, the boat went down, and he wrote this the wonderful song called Cún Bheile na Hinse. The song of the books are Or an the Laoire, Or an the Laoire, and element for the books. And this is for Seamus and Brona. It's the plummeting second note that knells his despair 2 centuries later. His clothes and all his leather-bound books drifted down among the kelp off Derrynan. His own poems, his rare manuscripts in Irish, blurring underwater, turning to pulp among crabs and mackerel. And the poet schoolmaster who had travelled overland, getting word by the shore in Portmagee and making a song out of utter loss. It was not the library of Alexandria, whose shelved scrolls stored the known world's wisdom and claimed to cure souls, or the library of Nineveh or of Babylon, where kings had imprinted their triumphs in wet clay. Yet the bell-voiced singers and the uilleann pipers tell it, as though the wooden sailing boat with its small, treasured library, the identity papers of the dispossessed, had hit that sea-hid rock, had gone down only yesterday. One of the wonderful things about music, apart from bringing us to our senses, is that it travels in most mysterious ways. And could never figure out how things like mazurkas ended up in South Donegal. But you wouldn't believe where musicians came from who land in South Donegal as well. And Australians, some of them even. But anyway, this is a story I heard from Ronan Galvin, who previously worked in ITMA, and he said that there was a story, or a song, a tune passed down in his family, and there was some notion that it came from a sailor, a shipwrecked sailor before the famine who had landed in that part of South Donegal. And he was at a festival in France, and he was playing it, and an Italian musician said, "That's a tarantella." So Ronan did a bit of research, as all of these musicians have done, and found indeed that a ship going from Bergen to Naples had gone down off Glencolmkill. So Donegal tarantella for Ronan Galvin. Tunes wash up ocean-polished pebbles in the kitchens of South Donegal. Mazurkas, Germans, Highlands, hornpipes, jigs, reels, all gone native since they were washed in by waves of returning emigrants, Napoleonic garrisons, travelling pipers, and fiddling tinsmiths. And in one fiddling family, a tarantella was passed down from a time before the famine, before there was a fiddle in any house, when shelter was afforded to a sailor rescued from the wreck of the Grassan, out of Bergen, bound for Naples, who, one night at a house dance, joined in the lilting with a tune from his native Italy, to please a girl or to keep the dancers going on a floor of beaten clay. A new tune, a gift, a ringing coin tossed into the trove of Northern music. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Radie Peat.
What will we do when we have no money? Oh, true lovers, what will we do then? Only walk through the town for a hungry crown, and we'll yodel it over again. And what will we do if we marry a soldier? Oh, true lovers, what will we do then? Only handle is gone, and we'll fight for the fun, and we'll yodel it over again. And what will we do if we marry a tinker? Oh, true lovers, what will we do then? Only mend a tin can and walk on with me, man, and we'll yodel it over again. And what will we do if we have a young daughter? Oh, true lovers, what will we do then? Only throw her on our back and walk on for the crack, and we'll yodel it over again. So what will we do when we have no money? Oh, true lovers, what will we do then? Only walk through the town for a hungry crown, and we'll yodel it over again. Thanks very much. Right, that's the first song on a stage in about 2-3 years or something. So that's done now. It's done. Thank God. I'm delighted to be here with amazing musicians, singers, dancers. Like, what a lineup tonight. Really honoured to be asked to be part of it. That song that I just sang there, I got from a collection of recordings of a woman called Mary Delaney, and it was recorded in the 70s in London. And as part of my Drawn from the Well, I got full access to all of the recordings ever made of her. I had to be granted access by the collectors themselves, and it just life-changing for me to hear all of the material. So I'm only going to sing songs from Mary Delaney today. So this next one is also one of hers, and it's called What Put the Blood, and it's a pretty devious murder ballad. I did the nice song first. Where have you been all the long summer's day? Son, come tell it unto me. I've been hunting and fowling all the long old day, and it's Mama, pardon me, oh, and it's Mama, pardon me, oh, and what put the blood on your right shoulder? Son, come tell it unto me. Oh, that is the blood of the hair I cut, that I killed most manfully, oh, that I killed most manfully. Oh, the blood of the hair, it could never be so red. Son, come tell it unto me. Oh, that is the blood of my youngest brother, that I killed most brutally, oh, that I killed most brutally. Oh, and what will you do when your father comes home? Son, come tell it unto me. I will put my foot on board of a ship, and I'll sail for a foreign country, oh, and I'll sail for a foreign country. Oh, and what came between you and your brother? Son, come tell it unto me. It was mostly about the cutting of a rod that will never grow into a tree, oh, that will never grow into a tree. Oh, and what will you do with your own dear wife? Son, come tell it unto me. I will leave her there in her grief and despair, and she'll see no more of me, oh, and she'll see no more of me. Oh, and what will you do with your houses and your land? Son, come tell it unto me. I will leave and there'll be no more welcomes there for me. Thanks a million.
Thanks. That was my introduction to the next song. For my bit of drawing from the well, I focused on tunes from a few old collections of manuscripts. One of them was the P.W. Joyce collection that was published in 1909. Another was Francis O'Neill's collection of 1850 tunes that was published around the same time, maybe a couple years later. And the third book was a more recent one. It was published when I was about maybe 10 so it was in the late 80s, Martin Mulvihill's collection. And I learned from Martin Mulvihill's son, Brendan. Brendan taught me the fiddle, and I remember them helping Martin publish this book. So those are the three books that I took tunes from. Martin's book is a lot of contemporary sources, and Brendan, my teacher, was the source of a lot of tunes in that book, and I recorded a few of the tunes from that book also for Drawing for the Well. But tonight I'm just going to play a very old tune from the P.W. Joyce collection. It's at least, we were trying to figure out backstage how old it could be. It's about 300 years old probably. It's called Beside the Harbor. And P.W. Joyce collected it. Let me see if I can get this right now. He collected it, well, he learned it from his grandmother in about 1850. She lilted it to him, and he learned it from her. And his grandmother learned it from her grandmother. So we were putting the tune, her grandmother, so P.W. Joyce's great-great-grandmother, was probably born around 1700 or thereabouts. So the tune was at least that old. So that's about 300 years old. And it could be older, it could be a lot older. We don't really know where she learned it, but we're going to start with that. It's a set piece, and it's a fiddle tune, so at least we know that much about it. And then I'm going to play another tune from the P.W. Joyce collection that I actually learned it. It's kind of a version that I learned from the great fiddle player Padraig O'Keefe, who's from Kerry. Padraig O'Keefe learned this tune from the P.W. Joyce collection. He kind of made his own tune out of two versions that are in the book, and I think it's probably his masterpiece. It's on YouTube if you want to go listen to it. I think it was probably recorded in the 1940s or 50s. Seamus Ennis recorded Padraig O'Keefe playing it. And then I'm going to finish off with a jig called the Sod of Turf. I'm sorry for giving you all this information. Once I get through this, I promise I'll just relax. So the Sod of Turf is a jig from the Francis O'Neill collection. Now.
Thank you.
I'm not speaking too loud for it. Thanks very much. It's a real honour and a privilege to be here with you this evening and to have been invited to be part of this Drawing from the Well series. Those were 3 tunes there that we uncovered in the course of our research for our Drawing from the Well episode. The second 2 are described in the programme for this evening. The second one was called The Banks of Glenoe, comes from the P.W. Joyce collection, and the final one was called Pull the Knife and Stick It Again. And those 2 are some way related to the cheery story of Petticoat Loose, a fantastic story from the Waterford-Tipperary border, and which was the focus of our episode. So if that's intriguing, you can watch our episode to find out a bit more. The first tune was one that didn't quite make it into the episode, but it was another one that captured our attention because of its connection between folklore and the tune, and that was really what we were interested in our research, the connection between folklore and story and song and tunes. And it was a tune called The Drowning at Bruckless, and it relates to an incident in County Donegal in 1813 in which 130 lives of fishermen were lost in a storm that was apparently whipped up by a wicked local witch called Biddy Devaney. And it's a fantastic story. Again, if you're interested, you can check out and find a bit more about The Drowning at Bruckless. So, yeah.
I think we're just going to play one more tune. So we're going to finish up here with a tune called O'Connell's Farewell to Dublin, which is one that we learned from a recording of the Clare flute player PJ Crotty. I think it was from a class in Milltown Malby that he gave in 1981. So we'll just play this one. Thanks a million.
Hi folks, Now, I can assure you, I ironed this shirt before I came out. Thank you very much. So I don't know how the creases got into it. But it's great to be here. You all enjoying yourselves? It's so am I. And I'm going to sing 2 songs. So I drew from the well many of the time. And but the most recent one was very interested in the the songs and the life of Caitlín Bean, because I grew up in Crumlin and I was born and reared there in Crumlin. And I always remember going around the corner and seeing the plaque on the wall. This is where the Beans lived, Brendan Bean and stuff. And she was the mother of all the Beans, and there's a great book. And well, I'm going to sing a song for you, a song called A Row in the Town, about a little row in the town here a couple of years ago. So I hope you enjoy it. I sing you a song of a row in the town, how the green flag went up and the crown right came down. It was the neatest and greatest thing ever you saw, and we played a great game, played an airing of bra. Here's a health to the men of the bold rank and file, and the lion-hearted women of Erin's Green Isle. May true men salute them with honour and awe, for they played the best game, played in Erin go bra. And God bless Gallant Pearce and those brave men who died. Clark, MacDonough, MacDermott, MacBride. Owing here's to James Connolly, who gave one last hurrah, for he placed the machine guns for Erin go bra. And all honour to Dublin, to hers the renown, who in long generations in memory will go down, and our children will think what their forefathers saw. Oh, the red flag of freedom over Erin go bra. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Well, I'll sing one more for you, if you don't mind. And if you want to sing along on this one, you can. If anybody wants to dance, car park outside. Thanks very much, and it's been a real pleasure being a part of this. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the night. It's a song called Biddy Mulligan, everyone. A woman who could get you and sell you anything. Goes like this. I'm a buxom fine widow who lives in a spot, and in Dublin they call in the Coombe. All me shop and me stall are laid out on the street, and me palace consists of one room. Up on Patrick Street corner for 45 years I've stood there, I'm telling no lie. Oh, and as I stood there, sure nobody would dare say black was the white of me eye. You may travel from Clare to the county Kildare, from Drogheda right back by Macroom. And where would you see a fine widow like me, Biddy Mulligan, the pride of the Coombe? Me boys, Biddy Mulligan, the pride of the Coombe. I sell apples and oranges, nuts and split peas, bananas and sugar stick sweets. I sell second-hand clothes on a Saturday morning, and the floor of me stall is the street. I sell fish on a Friday, laid out on a dish, fresh mackerels and lovely ray. Well, I sell lovely herons, such lovely fresh herons that once swam in dear Dublin Bay. You may travel from Clare to the county Kildare, from Drogheda back by McCruam. And where would you see a fine widow like me? Biddy Mulligan, the pride of the Coombe. Me boys, Biddy Mulligan, the pride of the Coombe. Well, I have a son, Mick, and he plays on the flute. He belongs to the Longford Street Band. It would do your heart good for to see him march out when the band plays in Dollymount Strand. In the park on a Sunday I'll cut quite a dash. All me neighbours look on in surprise at me grand paisley shawl and me bonnet so tall it would dazzle the white of your eyes. Everybody, you may travel from Clare to the county Kildare, from Drogheda right back by McCruam. Oh, and where would you see a fine widow like me? Biddy Mulligan, the pride of the Coombe. Me boys, Biddy Mulligan, the pride of the Coombe. Fresh fish. Hey! Thank you, folks.
Wasn't that great, Daoirí Farrell, but sure, it's all great. A well that I reach back into all the time, really, is that of the music and people of North Leitrim, where I grew up. And, I look back and I think, gosh, I've had the best of times in and around music and musicians, singers, dancers. Really, like tonight, the best of times, and music has brought me to so many great places. A few years back, we did a show called The Leitrim Equation, and that set me thinking about how music connects us and makes memory, and all the memories that I have. And I wrote a long poem, I'll just read part of it, called A Musical Equation, dedicated to all those who made and make music, especially out of my own county. Trying to make music, you drum a litany, years, light, faces out of darkness, notes adrift, laughter, smoke, whiskey blazing. You name names to name memory, the unnamed, unremembered, snow-graved, pipers, fiddlers, harpists, flute players, women, men, dancers under moon, American wake laments on gravestones, rousing life again, never. Music spilling out on the streets of Drumkeeran, Drumshambo, in the houses of Tarman, Sunday morning pubs warm with fiddle music and flute, the turns of tunes through gaps and time. Music out of lake and river in the shape of bushes, swin and rush, and the darkness down. Oh, and the light of spring brightening into summer. Hay dust and bog, fire flickering, never out, the feet light and sure on flag floors in Ahamore, Comalth in Leeds, London. May Hennigan bringing the 78s back from New York, sound gone and carried home, sweet as spring water, rich as good buttermilk, the gramophone needle turning slow and strong. And because borders blur and merge, Packy Degnan sits again in Paddy Mack's, the jaunty angle of his head, the bright eyes. Tommy Guihan plays a slow air for the dead. Neely Mulligan in Estonia straps on the pipes for the Leitrim thrush in the wings of my soul. Mary McPartlin sings the notes of pain and laughter. Edwina Guckian steps into a circle of cold light. Muhammad Al-Husseini sings Queen in a Dríomhara in Skerry Rins. Morris Lennon in Chicago plays the spirit of the music. And back in the county, Seamus Ennis sits in a kitchen outside Mohill, recording the ballad of Lord Leitrim from Tom Moran. Tom Munnelly drives a bullock to a fair in exchange for song and dance. Wooden clogs echo from the sessions across the fields in Derndangan when my father was a boy, and in the old abandoned mine shafts of Arigna, the collier's reel is clear in the drip of coal-black water. I grew up just a few fields away from the home of the great flute player and composer John McKenna from Tents in Tarman. And, you know, John's house is now this dedicated centre of music. People can stay there, do residencies, there are regular sessions. It's a great resource in the place. And, you know, his music has been recorded, is honoured. John McKenna Society in Drumkeeran does great work. But it wasn't always us. McKenna went off to New York in the early around 1917, made these really seminal recordings in New York in the 1920s. Those records came back and carried the music back and still inspire a whole host of younger musicians. But sometime in the 50s, McKenna himself came back. But a prophet isn't always recognized in his own place. And there's a story about a sports day in Tarman in the 1950s where John came carrying his concert flute with him, expecting to be asked to play, to be honoured in his place. And he wasn't. He was snubbed. And he left, was walking up the mountain home, and he met an old neighbour of mine, a wonderful man called Tommy Gralton, who was a pitman indeed. Years later, Tommy told me that he asked McKenna to play a tune that day, and they sat on a bank, and he did play. And in a sense, Tommy saved something from that day. He kind of an act of grace by inviting McKenna to play. And Tommy's spirit, in a way, inspired this poem called McKenna's Tunes. The pitman in the mist, a trip to cove, the sanctuary reel, the long island set, and carried the buttermilk home. The tunes we'd make if only we had the ear, the turn, the heart, the road for home. Disconsolate of a sports day, no one asks you to play, and heading away up the mountain, you meet one man who stops you, saves the hour, asks for a tune, what to play. The colliers reel, what better in this place where years and wheels of time on again, the man as small as once he was strong, frail now, rock dust on the lung, remembers meeting McKenna on the road and asks him to play. And oh, the glory of it, the birds alight in the bushes singing to match the man. And music catches time, holds it frail as moth or gable bat, flings it back to life, tosses it up and away. And when the shadows gather in the half-set ruins, flitted under oak and lintel, fiddle, flute, and dancing feet shout down the echoed moon, and new rose tune bursts into scent. Owl as white as pit is black, and coal flies softly. All is one, all is tune, all is silence, all is nettle, all is fossil stone. Anish Curgi Falcheriv Cormac Begley.
Constantiv. Tá sé go húntaach bhain an óir mór do bhain I ceiliúra an obair bhea identa again taisce dúchas. It's a huge honor for me to be here tonight with my peers. Some of my favorite musicians are here tonight, and singers and dancers, and an honor to be here. The project I worked on was for the Drawing for the Well series was focused on the history of the Jews harp around trumpa, and it inspired me to learn a few tunes on it. It's a very old instrument on trumpa. It dates back to 2000 BC, and it was first found in archaeological sites in China, made out of bone and out of wood. And it's evolved now to be made out of steel and brass. But it was played all over Asia and was brought to Europe in the 12th century and onto these islands in the 1600s. So those of you who haven't heard a trumpet before, this is what it sounds like. That's all I can do. But I was going to attempt playing a tune on it, but I won't put you through it. But I'll try and play on the concertina. It's a tune from Márthán ó Pháirte. It's the signature tune for Radio na Gaeltachta, and I'll play this a few times on this bass concertina. It's one of 6 bass concertinas built by the Colin Rosalie Dipper, the Dipper family. So here we go. Thanks very much. So I'll continue. I'm going to finish up with a set now. The first tune is called Caudation Dentation, and the second tune is called The Gallow Glass. And I don't have a name for the third one, but the first tune is a song that I love, and it's a song that It reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather's house burnt down about on the 20th of August last, and it's where my father's side of the family grew up. And he had two brothers, and they ran a dance hall in West Kerry for a number of years. And West Kerry, well, in some ways it still is the Wild West, but during the Caileys, there used to be a lot of trouble and the odd fight back there. And my grandfather, Brendan, the Buck was his nickname, they had a policy in the church, in the hall. I'll get to the church now, but they had a policy in the hall that if there's any trouble, it was Sheen Dúisiad agus an son Laoire. The policy was floor them and then talk to them when they're on the floor. Granddad's father's nickname was Schlap, so that should come as no surprise. But they ran Caileys in this hall. Some of you may remember sort of stories of it, but my grandfather was once interviewed on Joe Duffy, and these Caileys were held on Christmas Eve, and the church weren't too happy about that. So they used to say that the devil was back in the hall. And Joe Duffy once interviewed my grandfather and asked him, how did he deal with the pressure from the clergy? My grandfather simply answered, we ignored them. So this tune is called Cadation Dentation, and the message of the song translates as long as you're not hurting anybody, it's none of your business what I do with my life. So here we go.
That was something special. Míle buchas Steve Galair, sucht tachtan seo nocht. Don't worry, it's not over. Thank you all so much for coming here tonight and supporting all these wonderful artists and the Irish Traditional Music Archive and our partners in the National Concert Hall. If you weren't here, you'd be somewhere else, and we'd have an empty hall. So thanks so much for coming. Drawing from the Well is an artistic philosophy that informs all our engagements really with artists and the public. We try to connect artists with archive material and why to create new interpretations of the tradition and new art. We're lucky in ITMA we house the largest collection of Irish traditional music, song and dance in the world, and we have a lovely building at 73 Marion Square, courtesy of the OPW. Thank you, the OPW, where we house that collection. You're all very welcome. It's free universal access there, so do call in if you're interested in what we do. Hopefully you are. If you're interested in tonight's performances, all of these artists have episodes of Drawn from the Well available online on our YouTube channel and on itma.ie. None of this would be possible tonight without the generous support of the Arts Council of Ireland, who are wonderful supporters of ITMA over the years, and they really support us in trying to create a living archive for a living tradition. Also, I'd like to take tonight's opportunity as well to acknowledge the wonderful work that's been done for the arts sector in a broader capacity. Last week brought about the announcement and reality of the basic income for the arts. So congratulations to all involved here. Well done. Particular mention to Minister Catherine Martin and Arts Council CEO Maureen Connelly on delivering that reality. We'd also like to acknowledge the Arts Council of Northern Ireland, who've been great supporters of ITMA, and our friends in the RTE and the Irish Times, who helped spread the word of tonight's concert. We'll get back to the music, yeah, and you're in for a treat still. We have 3 artists joining Cormac on a nationwide tour later this week. We've the wonderful harper from Mayo, Laoise Kelly, and Laoise will be with us. Joining her on that tour as well is remarkable dancer Edwina Guckian. And our next guest, Corriggy Fáilte, more Riv Brían Mac Gloinn, a great singer, also known from his work with Ye Vagabonds. So Corriggy Fáilte with Brían. Cormac Begley.
Wow, how are you? As I went a-walking one evening lovely, where Florida's green mantle the fields decorate, I carelessly wandered where I did not know, by the banks of the river that runs near Glencoe. Like she who the pride of Mount Ida had won, there approached me a damsel as bright as the sun, and the ribbons and the tartans all around her did flow. That was once Grace MacDonald, the pride of Glencoe. I said, my fair young maid, your enchanting smile and your comely fine features do my heart beguile. And if your fond affections on me would bestow, then we'd bless the happy hour that we met in Glencoe. But she said, now my young man, your suit I disdain, for I once had a sweetheart, MacDonald by name, and he went to the wars about 12 years ago, and the maid I will remain till he returns to Glencoe. Till he returns to Glencoe, he returns to Glencoe. And the maid I will remain till he returns to Glencoe. But perhaps your MacDonald regards not your name, and has placed his affections on some foreign dame, and he may have forgotten, for all that you know, the charming young lassie that he left in Glencoe. But my Donald from his promise would never depart, for truth, love and honour are found in his heart. The French and the Spaniards he will soon overthrow, and in splendour he'll return to my arms in Glencoe. Saw her so faithful, he pulled out a glove that she gave him when parting as a token of love. She flew to his arms while the tears they did flow, saying, "You're welcome home, Donald, the pride of Glencoe." Now cheer up, my dear Flora, your sorrows are o'er, and while life still remains, we will never part more. The red storms of war at a distance may blow, while in peace and contentment we may bide in Glencoe.
Thanks very much. It's absolutely amazing to be here. I'm not used to standing on a stage on my own, let alone this one, but it's so nice to see you all. So I did, 2 years ago, I was up in Ironmore Island during one of the lockdowns. And while I was there, I did some work on a drawing from the Well project for the ITMA on the singing tradition of the island. So I found myself kind of going back through a lot of the old recordings, the ones that were available either on the island or elsewhere that might have been associated with the island. So that song is one that I found from a recording that Alan Lomax made on another island called Beaver Island in Lake Michigan, where something like 150 families from Ironmore emigrated to back in the mid-19th century. So many Ironmore people actually moved there that they still spoke Irish there into the early 20th century, and a lot of the songs and music is still retained on the island. So there was a singer there called John Green, who Lomax said was the most prolific ballad singer he'd ever met in his life. He'd never met anyone with as many songs. And he was the one who I found a fragment of a recording of that song around the same time that I heard from an islander that people used to sing it on the island. So I kind of reconstructed that one to a potential Ironmore version of the song anyway. So, But I'm going to sing you a song which is definitely an Aaron Moore version of a well-known song, and I'd love it if you sang it as well, if you'd like. There is a chorus. It's not a 14-verse ballad. So some of you might have picked up a program from the ITMA stall earlier on, and in 30 of those booklets, I made some little ballad sheets earlier on that I printed a little block print onto, and it has the words of this song and also a little QR code that you can scan and then listen to Biddy Joe O'Donnell from Ironmore Island singing it. So if you don't have it, you'll just have to pick it up. So anyway, and it's called Once I Loved, and thanks a million for listening, and enjoy the rest of your night. So.
Once I loved with fond affection, all his thoughts they were on me, until a dark girl did persuade him, and then he thought no more on me, for now he's happy with another, a one who has bright gold in store. 'Twas him that caused my heart to falter, I'm left all alone because I'm poor. He can go and leave me if he wishes, never let him cross my mind, nor if he thinks me so unworthy, he can go and leave me, never mind. It's many's a night with him I ramble, and many's a night with him I spent. I thought his heart was mine forever, but now I see 'twas only lent. And it's many's a night when he is sleeping, and thinking on his sweet repose, and I, poor child, quite broken hearted, listening to the wind that blows. He can go and leave me if he wishes, never let him cross my mind, nor if he thinks me so unworthy, he can go and leave me, never mind. So farewell, friends and kind relations, farewell to you, oh false young man. 'Twas you that caused my pains and sorrows, never to return again. So go and leave me if you wish to, never let me cross your mind, nor if you think me so unworthy, you can go and leave me, never mind. So go and leave me if you wish to, never let me cross your mind, nor if you think me so unworthy, you can go and leave me, never
Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Will sibh go maith? Nach go si just ionach bheith an seo anocht. To be celebrating our celebrated Irish traditional music in this way on our beautiful National Concert Hall stage. Just fantastic. Congratulations to Liam and Sean and all the team here in ITMA and everybody in-house. So Hugh Higgins was a harper born in 1737, and I suppose luckily the great United Irishmen formed in Belfast in 1791 not only had a great enlightened ideals, political ideals, social ideals, but they also were so culturally in tune. They knew that our ancient harping tradition was rapidly in decline, and they saw fit to commission Edward Bunting to take down the melodies from a bunch of harpers at the Great Belfast Harp Festival in 1792. So everything we have about Hugh comes from this collection. And everything about him and his repertoire. And the most important thing, of course, is he was from Mayo. So I played two little tunes for you. The first one is a Carolyn tune that Hugh sang. There are beautiful words to it, but I'll spare you the singing tonight. Mabel Kelly, so she must have been lovely, and Carolyn fell for her, you can hear it. And then the second tune is a tune for our times, interpreted now as a polka, but called My Lodgings Uncertain Wherever I Go. So it's the same old scale, isn't it? 1700s, 1600s, yeah. So Mabel first.
Hello. Hope you're all having a great evening. I've been dancing side stage there for most of the night. I couldn't keep still with all the great music. Powerful. So I'm going to tell you about the story of Jack Lattin, which was part of my Drawn from the Well project. Liam O'Connor pointed me in the direction of a great piece of research from Sean Donnelly. So Jack Lattin in 1731 was 21 years of age. And he was a great dancer, much sought after, and described as matchless on the fiddle. He came from quite an important family just outside Naas called Morristown Lattin. And the family were old English Roman Catholics that had been settled there for over 500 years. And Jack was heir to the 600-acre estate. Just up the road from that, 8 miles away, was Castle Brown. And the Brown family were of the same kind of background as the Lattins, so they socialized a lot together. And it was on the first week of July in 1731 that Jack was there. And I guess after a long day or night of dining and drinking, he was challenged to dance the whole way home, the 8 miles to his home at Morristown Lattin. So there was heavy wagerings on both sides. A huge crowd accompanied him. And some people say that he played for himself on the way home, and some people say that there was a musician, a fiddler, accompanied him as well. But he did it. He danced the whole way home and won the bet to Morristown Lattin. And there's a great rhyme in his family that have been passed down during the generations that goes along the lines of Jack Lattin, dressed in satin, broke his heart of dancing. He danced from Castle Brown to Morristown, and that's all we have. That's where it ends. But that was at the start of July, and on the 7th of July, 1731, Jack died. So it could have been from exhaustion or from a weakened body, maybe at that time, that caught a disease. And he's buried in St. David's churchyard, right along the corner of the church, the wall there at the gable, in Naas. If you're passing by, go in and do a step for him. Jack Lattin, then, the term "I'll make you dance, Jack Lattin," became a threat in County Kildare. So if somebody was, "Get out of my way or I'll make you dance, Jack Lattin," is the way they were using it. And it appears in Joyce's Ulysses, where Leopold Bloom is sending obscene postcards to some high society ladies. And it appears there. But that castle that I mentioned, he started off his journey at, Castle Brown, is still there today, and it's Clongo's Wood College, which was a Jesuit boys' boarding school. It still is. And Joyce attended that in his day, so I reckon that's where he got word of Jack Lattin's story. 2 years after Jack died, in the Faulkner's Journal in Dublin, Jack Lattin, a 3-part reel, was published and became really popular. And there's accounts of it being danced in Smock Alley in the late 1700s and as well around Ireland for the Rink of Fada. And there's accounts that he not only composed the tune but danced to this tune along his 8-mile lasting journey home. So in October 2020, I travelled to Clongo's Wood College, or Castle Brown, and got myself the Taylor and Skinner's roadmap from that time and set about tracing the exact path that Jack would have taken. And Jack changed his step every furlong, which is 1/8 of a mile, but I wanted to live. So I walked and danced at every half part of the mile. I stopped at a significant place that would have been there in Jack's time and called the steps after it. So like places like Millicent House, which was home to Arthur Griffith, or Black Hall, which was home to Wolftone and Ladystown, Millicent Bridge, there's the Pale. So there's loads of really great locations all the way through, and I was hoping that Jack would have, acknowledged them as he was passing. So I did that, and then also had the tune in my head, that 3-part reel, and choreographed steps that would match the tune really closely. And I also looked at the character that Jack was. So he seemed to be a bit of crack, stubborn possibly for taking on this challenge, and I tried to incorporate that into the steps as well. And I also came across in Sean Donnelly's research a reference when Queen Victoria was being entertained in the Duke of Leinster's house up the road from there at that time, and she remarked on a step dancer at that time that their steps were very droll. So I didn't know whether it was a compliment or not. So I tried to incorporate all of that into the dance. So I'm going to, in memory of Jack Lattin, travelling the road that he did, and to the tune that he was said to have composed, I'm going to give you my version of I'll Make You Dance, Jack Lattin. Thank you.
That was real, by the way. You didn't imagine it. Isn't it absolutely marvellous? We're coming towards the end of a wonderful night. And I'm going to finish with a poem for the dancers and also for the sound people. And it's called Harmonic Vases. I was in a beautiful church in France a number of years ago, and they had just restored it and found in the walls of the choir there were just the mouths of these vases that were hidden in the wall just to improve the resonance. So harmonic vases, thank you for being such a magnificent audience. And harmonic vases. In the choir of the Collégiale Saint-Martin, just beneath the light-blasted Gothic vaults are a number of small holes in the openings of large ceramic pots placed in the walls to improve the acoustic. In cottages in County Clare, an iron pot was buried under the hearthstone to give resonance to the dancer's step, to contain the necessary emptiness. For although we wish to live utterly alive within our skins, there lives in us another yearning, that whatever harmonic is awakened in us reverberate outwards through our voice, our step, and outwards and outwards. Gur maith. Agus inis don focailscar agus don dánscar chuir go fáilte mór ribh an duine iontach sin, an fille iontach sin, Vincent Woods. Give a warm welcome to the great and good Vincent Woods.
Thanks so much, Moya. Well, nach Inta on Aoife Bhriain, and sure, it's not quite done yet. Thanks to all of you for being here and being such a generous and attentive audience. It makes all the difference. Thanks to all our brilliant music artists, to the National Concert Hall for this partnership with ITMA, to everyone here on sound and lighting and production, everyone on backstage, make it all possible. Christy McNamara, who's capturing the night in photographs. And most especially, obviously, to Liam O'Connor, Sean Potts, Grace Toland, and all at the Irish Traditional Music Archive for all that they do, and especially for this extraordinary night. The Piper in the Snow. After a painting you can see in the National Gallery of Ireland, Joseph Haverty's The Blind Piper. The piper played a real Naproti Galabona. The young girl danced, and there was no tomorrow. He knew her by her step. Sometimes he'd say, "Your feet, as Thor, will dance across the sea." That blighted winter, lying in the snow, he knew he felt his hands. He knew he felt her hands upon his hair and heard her voice unaltered. "Oh, think, will there be music over there?" Thanks very much.
first to London I arrived, a pretty girl I chanced to spy. When first to London I arrived, a pretty girl I chanced to spy. I was up to the rigs, I was down to the jigs, I was up to the rigs of London town. I was up to the rigs, I was down to the jigs, I was up to the rigs of London town. Well, she called me up to the House of Fame at the side of the ship at the £1 lane. She called me up to the House of Fame at the side of the ship at the £1 lane. I straightway gave her my consent, and to her chamber straight we went. It was up to the rigs, it was down to the jigs, it was up to the rigs of London town. Well, she called for wine both white and red, and a pretty girl to make the bed. She called for wine both white and red, and a pretty girl to make the bed. For supper then the maid did call. She said, "Kind sir, you'll pay for all." It was up to the rigs, it was down to the jigs, it was up to the rigs of London town. In the middle of the night this maid fell asleep, and out of her arms I did creep. In the middle of the night this maid fell asleep, and out of her arms I did creep. I stole from her a silken gown, her silver snuff box and £10. I was up to the rigs, I was down to the jigs, I was up to the rigs of London town.